Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, regardless of where you are. It's always a great time to study the gospel enlightened by Spiritism. Today, we're going to review chapter 91 of the book Our Daily Bread, which is titled, That is Your Responsibility. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Kardec Radio for opening up its many social media platforms so that we can have conversations just like this one. Before we begin, let's say our initial prayer to connect with our spiritual benefactors. Thank you, Lord, for this amazing moment for all of us when we can sit down for a few minutes and reflect about the teachings of the gospel. There's so much wisdom that Jesus left for us. There's so much understanding, so much enlightenment. It's just up to us to absorb it and especially to put it into practice. Give us strength so that we can try to choose the path of righteousness, and give us intuition so that we may be better equipped to discern between what is best for our spiritual development and what could be detrimental to us. May your love be with us always. So be it. So again, let me just fix my camera here just a little bit. All right. So again, we're gonna be discussing. There you go. We're going to be discussing chapter 91 of the book, and don't mind me fiddling with the camera here. Okay, that's good. So we're going to be discussing chapter 91 of the book, Our Daily Bread, which is based on Matthew chapter 27, verse 4. Now, the passage here, it relates to the time right after the time when Judas betrayed Jesus and helped turn him over to the Jewish authorities, and he feels very guilty about it, and he goes back to the chief priests and to the elders, and basically to open up about how he felt about it, because again he was feeling very guilty. And basically, this is the way that Matthew narrates it. His words, Judas's words. I have sinned, he said, for I have betrayed innocent blood. So again, Judas was admitting here that he had sinned because he had betrayed someone who was innocent. He contributed for an innocent man to be arrested. And then the priests and elders replied to him, what is to us? They replied, that is your responsibility. Again, Matthew chapter 27, verse 4. Emmanuel provides a very nice explanation to it. Emmanuel starts indicating that words regarding human evil are always cruel to those that listen to the criminal insinuations. So we see here that whenever we hear about mistakes that others make, they usually shock us. And especially when they have a criminal insinuation or a criminal tone to that. But in reality, we're all fallible. As human beings, we can all make mistakes. And as we're going to see here in the rest of the chapter, that not only that, but the fact that others contribute to that, the fact that others guided us into the wrong path, I mean, that does not exempt us from our own responsibility. Emmanuel continues. The case of Judas demonstrates the irresponsibility and the perversity of those who are involved in the execution of grave errors. So here what we see again, Judas made a mistake. Judas contributed to the arrest of Jesus, who was an innocent man. And we see here that those individuals that talked Judas into doing that, they in their minds, in their conception, which was very limited and like I mentioned, irresponsible and perverse even, they behave as if, hey, it's your responsibility. In the end of the day, you're the one who did it. Doesn't matter what we told you, what we promised, how many silver coins we gave you. But again, in the end of the day, it's your responsibility. Emmanuel continues indicating that the careless spirit, upon considering the evil suggestions in a short time, is conduced to loneliness and surrounds him in the circle of disastrous consequences. Consequences is the key word here. Two words that I like here. So first of all, considering the evil suggestions. So when we open ourselves to um, any kind of indication, any kind of suggestion for us to do what's wrong, we're opening ourselves. We're considering those. And an interesting thing is that those can come from different sources. In the case of Judas, it came from incarnate spirits. Those might come from discarnate spirits as well, who are always around us. According to the Spirit's book, we are so often influenced by the spirit, by the spiritual world, that a lot of times it's indistinguishable for us to discern when we are being guided by them. But the third part here, that is the most important, is when we are guided by our own evil suggestions, the ones that come from ourselves. And that's why it's so important for us to connect the last word here, which is consequences, disastrous consequences. Because again, you're going to face the consequences no matter how you were influenced or how or why you let yourself be influenced, be guided to do evil. The consequences are always there. And there's this sense of loneliness that's going to surround us if we do that. And many continues here with the explanation why that loneliness. Because again, when we act correctly, we'll find the happy results of these initiatives. Floods of companions who wish to share our victories. So we see here, when we do what's right, we're going to attract those. We're going to attract those souls. We're going to attract those individuals that are going to have affinity with what's right. And even though we might be challenging, especially in a planet like Earth, which is a planet of trials and tribulations, even though it might be challenging for us, still, in the end of the day, when we do things right, when we do what's right, and when we do our best, we do win. We are victorious, like Emmanuel is explaining here. The flip side of it is that when we fail, um, and when it means meanwhile, rarely he will feel the presence of someone who will share his afflictions during days of temporary defeat. And again, share afflictions. So it is rare for us when we are suffering, when we make mistakes, there are going to be few individuals that are going to be around us. Again, just human nature. We're dealing with inferior spirits just like us. So when we are suffering, when we are in moments of defeat, we're going to be lonely, except for those souls, those spirits who really care about us. And again, so when we fail, then we're going to feel like that. When we are victorious, we're going to attract those positive spirits, those spirits with good intentions, and most likely higher order spirits. They're going to be able to connect with us. And when we do it otherwise, it's not so much that those spirits stop caring for us. It's just that now we are blocking ourselves from that kind of linkage, from that kind of bond. But the good thing here is that Emmanuel indicates that such a reality induces one to be more cautious. The bitter experience of Judas is still repeated daily among the majority of men, although in different fields. So we see here that we're always so judgmental of Judas, of how he acted at the time. But again, Judas is a spirit just like us, was also evolved, and based on several accounts from several spirits, it is a spirit who has evolved a lot since that time. But the important thing here is, instead of being judgmental, the most important thing is for us to be cautious, because in our daily lives we run into similar situations as well. And Emmanuel provides some examples. There are those who listen to improper insinuations of malice or indiscipline regarding inner tranquility, referring to family matters and ordinary work. So we see here how many times we do people suggest us, um, they incite us to act incorrectly in our families, in our neighborhoods, in our workplaces. We encounter that situation all the time. So again, we don't have to be Judas Iscariotes to fall into error. I mean, we are tempted all the time. And Emmanuel continues, sometimes man breathes peacefully, resolving his necessary tasks. However, the envious suggestions and despair approach him, and he becomes disturbed with false hopes, inadvertently entering into dark and ingrate labyrinths. It's an interesting thing here that Emmanuel mentions that when we're doing what's right, there are envious suggestions. There are those around us, both incarnate and discarnate as well, who are going to be jealous of us because again we're succeeding. And like the old saying goes, misery enjoys company. So if we're being successful, that means that we're going to be in this happy, we're going to have these happy results of our initiatives, like Emmanuel alluded to before. So see here, then again, we might be incited and have suggestions to despair, right? And to indicate, hey, why are you doing this? You're not being wise. You need to be wise in that. And they might be those suggestions might try to influence us with false hopes of financial gain, false hopes of romantic successes, false hopes of prosperity. And again, whenever those false hopes are entering into the dark and ingrate labyrinths, then we gotta watch out. So we gotta be attentive to those situations. When he realizes the error of his heart or mind, he becomes anxious towards the forerunners. So again, whenever we see that we made errors, we're going to become anxious towards those who incited us to do it. However, Emmanuel continues, however, the inferior world, calling the observations towards Judas, amusingly explain, what is that to us? That is your responsibility. So I like the way, and by the way, that's the end of the chapter here. And we see here that no matter who influences us, no matter what suggestions we listen to or we do not listen to, in the end of the day, it's always a responsibility. It's all the consequence. We always face the consequences of our positive actions and also of our irresponsible and wrong actions, the immoral actions as well. So it is always up to us, and it's a very important concept. Thinking even emphasized in Spiritism. We see here in the Spirit's book, question 843, Kardec asks the spiritual world, do human beings have free will in their actions? So basically, Kardec is actually, do we have choice? Do we have freedom of choice? And the spirits explain, since they have freedom of thought, they have freedom of action. So basically, since we can think and reflect, then it is up to us to take action. Without free will, they would be nothing more than machines. So we see here this explanation that tells us that, hey, but what am I? Right? I'm not a machine. I'm not a programmable. I'm not an AI that I can enter some prompts and get some results. No, that's not me. I always, in the end of the day, I always have the final say in what I do and how I act and react as well. That's always up to me as well. So let's be judicious whenever we identify any influences, again, either from incarnate, discarnate spirits, or even from ourselves as well. And always use our best judgment whenever we take action. That's our conversation for today. I hope you like it. And as always, if you liked it, click the like button. And also, if you have not done so, either subscribe or follow Kardec Radio, so that depending on the social media platform that you're using, so that you might get notified of other conversations just like this one. At this time, let's connect to our spiritual friends in prayer and thank the Lord, thank God for the opportunity for us to have our free will, to have our freedom of choice, to be able to think, to analyze what we see, what we hear, and most importantly, to think before we act, to think before we say anything. No matter how much others might try to influence us and even a lot of times succeed doing so, at the end of the day, it is always our responsibility. The good news about it is that it is also our responsibility to evolve. It is also our merit to grow as well. And whenever we are strong, whenever we follow the path of righteousness, it's a victory for us. And it's a step forward toward our spiritual progress. May God's love be with us always. So be it.